Okay, good morning. So today we're going to cover in this session the SMUFlex classroom and the new technology that we've put in here that's called the DTEN. So before we start this session, by the way, I'm Christina Churchill and I'm the Academic Technology Services Director for the School of Business. And we will be covering this technology we've put in here. I know that there's a lot of questions on what classroom has this technology. In the chat, you will see a link that will allow you to look up your classroom and see if the DTEN is listed on there. So that's kind of, I know that's the first question is, does this really apply to me? So if you want to check there, that will give you information on what technology is in your classroom. Now, the way this is set up, like the other sessions, your microphones have been muted. This is primarily to make sure that we cover all of the information that we need to cover. If you have questions throughout, please feel free to go ahead and type it in the chat. My hope is to get through this session kind of quickly and cover the necessary items. And then I will answer the chat questions. And then if we have time, we'll open up the mics for questions. So with that, I want to go ahead and get started. So I'm going to start with kind of covering the hardware that we have here. And by the way, I am in one of the, I'm in Crow 190. And a lot of the classrooms, if you have any sessions in Cox, including Collins, all the classrooms have the DTEN for Cox, except for the EY gallery. So just kind of know this is where I am. So not every single classroom is going to have exactly the setup, but I do want to make sure that you understand how this is, how the hardware is. So obviously, I have the lectern in front of me. In this particular classroom, I have a monitor that I can write using a pen on the actual screen. In front of me, there's the webcam, and down below here is a 55-inch TV, okay? In the past, if you were in a classroom with a similar setup, the 55-inch TV was an extension of your screen. So when I moved my mouse, I could keep moving it and it would move my mouse to the screen down on the ground. That has been changed now. The screen down on the ground, I will be able to see my students down here, but it is connected to the DTEN. So I'd like to explain now again, right now I'm not connected to the DTEN. I want to kind of give you a view of what it looks like. So it does look like just a plain TV, but it is a touch screen. And what I will do is, there's kind of some different options here, but what the most important is the join button, okay? So when I connect to this, I'm going to click join. And then the critical thing that you need to know is the meeting ID and meeting passcode. Okay, so you won't have a link, you'll have to make sure that you know that information in order to join. So there's a couple things that need to happen when you walk into the classroom. So you walk into the classroom, you go to the lectern, and you will connect, you will log in just like you have in the fall with your SMU credentials. Do not use guest if guest is an option. You need to make sure you connect with the SMU credentials. Then you will double click on your the Zoom icon that's on the desktop and sign in. At that point, one thing that is very critical is that you do not join with audio. The audio right now I'm not using the DTEN, so the audio is passing through the microphone. But what we're doing is we're going to be using the microphone from the DTEN to pick up the audio from myself and from the students out there. So what you need to make sure is you do not join audio. What I'm going to do in a couple of minutes is I'm going to disconnect because I did join audio so you could hear me, and then I'll reconnect. without audio on my lectern. And then you won't hear me for a second, but you'll see me press the join button. I'll enter the numbers in here, and the audio will be picked up from here. So that's kind of the hardware setup. Give me just one moment, and I will be right back. Okay, can you hear me okay? Can you guys give me a thumbs up if you can hear me? Okay, thank you. All right, so right now, it's picking up the audio from this. I do have this turned on, and I do want to show you kind of the difference. So if I have this, there's a little bit of an echo. If I turn this off, the feedback that I've gotten is that it's actually better without the mic. Can you guys hear me better now? Is it better? Okay. So it's up to you if you want to use the mic. But again, the feedback is it's better to not use the mic, that the quality of the DTEN picking up the audio is fine. Okay. So a couple things that I want to note on here that you weren't able to see on my lectern as I joined without audio is, so again, I'm connecting. First, I walk up to the lectern, I sign in, I join the meeting. I don't join with audio. Just when it says join with audio, I just click the X. It does ask me that twice. It says, are you sure, that you don't want to join with audio and you do not want to join with audio on the lectern? Because the second you do and you join audio here, you will have feedback. Okay, so that's kind of critical, something that you usually wouldn't know. But at this point, you can see that there's kind of two images going on. One is the image that you're seeing because I've spotlighted myself. But I am going to remove the spotlight a second, and we'll talk about how to do the spotlight. Okay, so now what I want to do is I'm going to spotlight the classroom so you can kind of see, oh, the video is not even on. So let's talk about this a second. I'm going to turn on the video here. So you should be able to see the video, and I'm going to go ahead and spotlight that video for everyone so you can kind of see what the view looks like. Okay, so there's a camera up at the top. Actually, let me spotlight two people. Okay, can you see me and the classroom now? Awesome. Okay, so there's a camera up here at the top. The microphone is kind of goes across here. And it's able, as you can see, I spotlighted the image of myself with the camera coming to me, and then the image of the students in the classroom. This is a newer feature that Zoom has. As a host, when I move my cursor right next to the image that I want to spotlight, I can click the three little dots and I can select pin for everyone. And then I added the spotlight. Okay, so I can force that if you were having a discussion and you want everybody to be able to see primarily yourself on the camera, and then the classroom, you can force pin using those three little dots in the image that you want to pin. And then I added a spotlight. But I do want, now, as you can see, I don't have anybody in the classroom, but I do want to show you kind of the quality. Now, if you remember, I don't have a mic on, okay? So what you're hearing right now, hopefully you can see me, what you're hearing right now is the audio being picked up from the DTEN. So as you can see, the quality is pretty good as far as picking it up. You do have a pretty expanded view of the classroom. One thing that you need to kind of consider is setting up some sort of procedure, because if you notice, I have a mask on and all your students will have a mask on. So sometimes it's going to be difficult to figure out how in the world, who's speaking. It's going to be hard for the online student to be able to see. So if that means, they raise their hand and say, hey, and then speak or whatever, so that it helps the online student identify who is doing the speaking. Just think about that as a procedure, how you want to run that. Maybe it's standing up. I don't know. It all depends on your class and how well that works. So hopefully, I actually have to say I'm pretty impressed with the quality of the audio that you're able to have throughout here. We did have a training session in here last week, and we had probably about 15 people, and we easily carried on a conversation with online students and with the face-to-face students, and it went really seamlessly. So just kind of keep that in mind. That works really well. Okay, the next thing that you can do, so besides the video, and by the way, right now I can see you down here. I see anyone that has their camera on. I'm able to see down on the TV down here, okay? So thank you for those that do have your camera on. Again, this is the DTEN is connected to your online students, or I mean to the online students, the TV down at the bottom. So now let's cover another thing. A great feature, I think, is using the whiteboard. So this does have a feature. If I just tap it, you will see that it has a feature down at the bottom here that says whiteboard. There is a pen that is connected to the DTEN, and you just click on, and it also works with your finger, but I would recommend using the pen. You click on whiteboard, and now you can see it's just a white screen, and so I'm able to draw or write whatever I want on the board. Now, just so you know, right now, obviously, the people can see what I wrote. You can see what I wrote. Up on the screen up at the top, I also can see what I wrote. So, you know, as far as visibility, especially compared to a whiteboard that sometimes it's difficult for students to see depending on where they're sitting, this allows all the content to be displayed up at the top through the projector. And so visibility of what you write on the board is accessible to everyone. A couple features on this whiteboard, obviously, I can change colors very quickly. If I want to draw a graph, you know, let's say I'm drawing a graph here and so forth. That's pretty easy to do. And also there's a button here down at the bottom. It may be a little bit hard to see, but it looks like a square with a little plus. I can click on that and it gives me a new page. And so now I can draw something else in here. Okay, so with the new page, I can click and add another page if I would like, but there's also a little button that looks like a square and the number 2. And this allows me, I click on it and it's kind of hard. Maybe you can see on one of the cameras, I see 2 of the boxes where I had the whiteboards, and I can easily switch between the pages, okay? So that's really valuable if you like to have a lot of real estate to write on. You quickly can have a page and switch back and forth. There's kind of some other neat features. Obviously, there's an eraser if I want to erase something. There is, you can select the shapes. I can do shapes. I can do the thickness of how I'm writing as well. And I can also click on the little trash can and it just cleans the whole board for me. So just some features. There's also a little disc here. We don't use discs anymore, but there is a disc. And it allows me to send this or save this. So at this point, when I clicked on the disc, it shows me all the different pages that I have. I can select the pages I want to save, click on next, and then I see all of the participants if I wanted to email all the participants, or I can just email it to myself. I can find my name on here and email it to myself. Down at the corner here, I also have send image as and I can click on that and select if it's a JPEG or a PDF or so forth. So I have some options. Okay, And then when I click save, it just automatically sends. It knows my email if I send it to myself because I'm logged in using my account. There is also, lastly, another feature that you can click on this little night vision, the night setting, and you're able to just set it in a different mode where it's not the white screen. It's the black mode, I guess. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and click on close, and I'm not going to save. And now I'm back to the original setting. So that's kind of the whiteboard feature. Now I'm going to show you how to share a screen, and then we'll talk about how you can write on top of the screen that you're sharing. Okay. So from here, I'm going to the lectern. I'm going to bring up a PowerPoint and share it with you. Okay. And again, as you're familiar with Zoom, I just bring it up. I'm going to click share screen, and I'm going to share my whole screen. So at this point, you should be able to see my PowerPoint, and I can go in presentation mode if I'd like. Okay, so I just shared the screen just like you have been sharing the screen in Zoom. Okay, so now I can pick this up and I can write. Oh, that's a bad color. Let's see. I can write on here as well. Okay, so now a word about this. Okay. This right here, I mean, although it's a great feature, I'm writing on here, it's an overlay, right? So the second I move to the next screen, because it's an overlay, it's still there, okay? So you need to keep that in mind. If that is a problem, what you'll need to do is I would recommend to use the feature on, if you have a touch screen with a pen, use that on the actual monitor on the lectern, okay? So if you need the writing to follow your PowerPoint, that's how you want to handle it, okay? So just something to think about as far as features. Now, you can always, if you're not going to be bouncing back and forth, and let's say I wrote something on here, and then I'm going to the next screen, but I'm not going to go back, I can go ahead and click the little trash can and delete what I wrote on top of that. So quickly I can delete and move forward. If you're going back and forth in your slides, that may not be a good option. So just kind of keep that in mind, that is a limitation, because just like the whiteboard in Zoom, that's all it's using is the whiteboard feature. And so it's overlaying the information on top. Okay. All right. So the next thing, and this is kind of something I believe is a great feature, is the ability to share content wirelessly. So right now I've got my laptop, and I'm going to share my laptop. Remember, I just shared my the lectern information, right? But let's say I like using my own laptop. I want to share my laptop, or even keep in mind that even students in the classroom, let's say they're doing a presentation and they need to share their content, they can do this as well. So I'm going to stop share here. Okay. And I have my laptop. And so if you noticed, and you may not have noticed because for a while I didn't know it was there, when you go into your Zoom app, and the Zoom app is the blue little square with the camera, right? If you open that up right now, you'll see 4 buttons on the left. One says new meeting, one says join, schedule, and there's also another button that says share screen. This button also works for sharing content on here. So you don't need any special software. You don't need to go into anywhere difficult. You just click on share screen. And then at this point, for me in here, what it's asking me is share screen, sharing key or meeting ID. So I need to find the meeting ID, or I can put in the meeting ID if I already know it, which I could because I entered it in here in the DTEN. But let's say I don't have it handy. What I can do is there's a button down here that has 3 little dots. I can click on those 3 little dots and I get a menu that pops up. In this menu, I have lots of different options. I have mute, stop video, and so forth. But what I care about is this button here that says share content or camera. I'm going to click on that, and it gives me a sharing key. Okay, so I can type in the sharing key, MEODA. And at this point, you see my laptop, and I can bring up my PowerPoint. Okay, so quickly I was able to share a screen. Again, this is wirelessly. It was simple. It was easy to do. Now, if I wanted someone else to share a screen, all I have to do is stop sharing the screen. You can have your online students share a screen. You can have somebody sitting in the classroom share a screen. Now, I have a Mac. Windows computers work the same way. Actually, your phone works the same way. So you have the ability to share an iPad information. You can share phone. You can share whatever you'd like wirelessly and quickly. You can share your content. And as you do this, I can also, again, write on top of here. Okay, and again, it's just an overlay. So if I go to the next screen, I want to click the delete button and it would delete the information. So
can I interrupt with a question from the chat regarding that overlay?
Yes.
Is there a way to save your overlay on top of your PowerPoint? Save what you've written on top of?
That's a good question. So let's see. I think what happens is it sends just the annotations. It wouldn't do a screenshot of it. It would just, so if I wrote something on a PowerPoint, when I save it, it's just going to be the digital writing that I wrote and not the screenshot of the content. Does that help?
Yes. I just want to point out that anything you do, if you are recording, is on your recording. So while you won't have a file of the PDF or the PowerPoint with the annotations on top, you will have it saved on that recording.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And by the way, like I'm noticing right now, I look really dark. You know, the cameras, keep that in mind, and you can kind of look at how your recording is being done. Because the camera is picking up the light from here, it kind of throws off the light balance on my face. So just kind of keep that in mind. Oh, sorry. Let's do that close up, but keep that in mind. That maybe that's a little bit better. But just kind of watch for that. Watch the lighting to that. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and exit on here. Let's see. So we covered hardware. I feel like the post is right in the middle. That's my face. Okay. So we covered hardware. Okay. Lectern. You've got your TV here. You've got the DTEN. Connecting. Most important thing. You connect first in the lectern. Sign in. Do not connect with audio. And then you go to here. Join your meeting. Put your meeting ID in there. One thing that I may have forgotten to discuss is if my meeting ID or my meeting is set up to automatically mute. So when you go in and set up, if it's set to mute participants when they come in, I'm probably going to be muted on the D10. Okay, so what I'll need to do is just go down. There's an option down at the bottom that has the little microphone. You just click on it and it unmutes you. And you can also control the camera and turn that on and off too. So that will take your meeting, whatever your meeting configuration is, that's how this will be set up. So let's see, we talked about connecting and how to connect the whiteboard and how to share your screen. Obviously, sharing your screen with with the lectern is just like you've always shared with Zoom. And then again, with any other device, you open up the Zoom app and click on share screen. And at that point, it will, once I put the meeting screen ID or meeting ID in there, it will connect me. So I think at this point, I've kind of covered the overall basics of this. If we want to go ahead and I can answer questions or open up the mic for questions.
If you don't mind, I'll read a couple from the chat and then we can unmute everyone so that they can ask questions. So one was, do all the DTENs have that second monitor where you can see the students?
I would say I would double check and see on that listing, the technology listing on that website to see what is listed on there. That extra TV should be listed on there. If you taught in that room before and they did have a TV down there, it's still going to have the TV down there. But I think the best way to know for a fact is look at that list and verify that there is an extra TV. Or visit the room.
Visit your room, yes.
Yes, absolutely.
So for the rooms that don't have that second monitor, just want to point out that when you are not sharing your screen, your Zoom students' faces will show on the DTEN. When you are sharing your screen, you'll see the screen on the DTEN. Because one of the other questions was, do the students in the room see the Zoom students?
And that's a great question. So keep in mind, and it's a little tricky, like when I'm sharing my screen, right? So right now I'm sharing my screen and the primary on my lectern, what I'm seeing is my shared screen and kind of a film strip, let's say, of my of the people in the meeting. But the second I stop sharing my screen, hold on. And you have to keep track of which computer you're sharing. When I stop sharing my screen and I go in, now I have a forced pin, so I'm going to unpin these. Okay, so I'm going to remove the spotlight and put it in gallery view. So at this point, I don't know if you can see behind me, but I have the gallery view of everybody connected, right? So if there is a need to make sure that your students are being able to see all the other students because you're having a discussion, then the best case scenario would be you would stop sharing your screen and you put it in gallery view on your lectern, so then your students will be able to see the gallery view in the back. So, but obviously by default, I see you all right here in front of me. I don't know if you can see a little bit of the corner of the TV, but I see all of you in gallery view as default. But if you're needing to have your students see the online students, I would recommend stop sharing and put it in gallery view to project up at the top. And that's going to be the best experience for the students.
All right, so another question. This instructor has her students pre-register for Zoom ClassLink. How will that work with the DTEN connecting to the meeting with the Zoom meeting ID?
It won't cause any problem. When you need to make sure you know your meeting ID and your meeting passcode, right? That's going to be the key. But because it's a Zoom, what's called an official Zoom room, the second it connects, it's as if it's a host. Okay, so it should not cause any problems. You don't have to pre-register your D10 to join the meeting.
Okay, so next question. One problem I had last semester was when my PowerPoint was in presentation mode, I had to leave presentation mode to change the color of my pen. So with the D10, you would just change that on the D10. Right.
Yes. I mean, the nice thing again is I just tapped on it and down at the bottom, it gave me the color options. Just keep in mind that you it's overlaying, right? That's going to be the hardest, the most difficult part is it's an overlay. But to just switch, all I have to do is just tap it and it gives me all the different color options or delete the whole thing or so forth.
Okay, so we have plenty of time left, at least 10 minutes. So I have let everyone have access to their microphones again. So if anyone wants to just jump in and ask a question, now is your chance.
Hi, Christina.
Hi.
Hi, it's Carlos. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you great.
Okay. Yeah, I think I got this and then Faye answered it, but to do the thing where you're showing the class, when you started the whole session, I was seeing you, and then you switched to I see you small and I see the whole classroom. Would you mind just running through that one more time, how you did that?
Yes. So what you do as the host, right? I can push a view to the students, right? And what I do is I select, I'm looking at you on the lectern in gallery view. And so I click on the picture itself and there's 3 little dots that come up, right? So I can click on the 3 little dots and I can say spotlight for everyone. Okay, so I'm going to do that for the classroom. Okay, and I can also add another spotlight. So I can click on, I see my image there and I can click on the 3 dots again and I can add a spotlight. So now you have the ability, and it should push it to all of you, the ability to see the classroom and to see me. So, and
Perfect.
I do.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. And I'm going to come back here because I don't know about you guys, but I think this technology is pretty amazing. That you can hear me. You can hear me good, right? Like from all the way back here. If you know Pro 190 is a really pretty big room, they probably fit about 50 people. And the quality of the microphone is amazing. So I just kind of wanted to sit back here because I just wanted to show you kind of the what it will look like or what it will feel like for your online students. Do we have other questions? Feel free to unmute your mic.
Christina, hi, Helmut speaking. First of all, Happy New Year and thanks for preparing all this. Now, we have different classrooms with different equipment. For example, I will teach in Collins. There, I assume I have only some parts of what you described today, right?
No, actually in Collins, you will have a DTEN as well, and it will work exactly like what I described today. Even though that we have microphones within the ceiling in Collins, we actually found after some testing that the DTEN, the microphones are just as good, if not better. So your setup will be exactly the same as I described today.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I was curious about installation of equipment for future semesters. I looked at the project summary and didn't see any of the classrooms that I teach in Clements Higher and Dallas Hall when I return eventually, I guess for fall, from teaching fully virtually. So I'm sure that we'll get help with whatever equipment is installed in any classroom, but just curious about upgraded equipment like the DTEN for additional rooms on campus.
Oh, wow. Honestly, I would say that I honestly have no idea. I don't know what the plans are. I wish I could tell you. You know, I think just know this, that no matter what technology is going to be installed, that you will have the support and the training available to be able to know and understand how to use it. But at this point, as far as like a timeline or what is the outlook for the future, I have no idea. I wish I could answer that for you. Sorry.
That's okay. I was just curious. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions?
Hi, Christina. This is Mario De La Garza. I had a question about last semester when I had students present, there was a difference in students presenting that were virtual or online students versus students presenting that were in the class, and specifically with audio difficulties and feedback. So my question is, the most difficulty that I experienced, and this could just be because of my ignorance with technology, but the most difficulty was when students in class, the in-person students, would try to present, and there would be a lot of feedback. And so if they wanted to show a video, that was the hardest thing. They would have to email it to me, and I would have to present it on my screen and present it rather than them presenting it. Is that taken care of now with this DTEN technology?
Yes. So the important part when you're sharing audio, when you're sharing, is, you know, when you click on the share button in Zoom, you have the option that says share audio. You need to make sure that that's checked, right? But just like I shared my content on the laptop, there isn't any difference, and you shouldn't have any feedback. They will not be joining your meeting, right? So you're not joining with audio. What they would do is, again, go into the Zoom app, and there's that button down at the bottom that says share screen. You find the code or the meeting ID where you're going to enter, and then they're able to share their screen. So you shouldn't have any difficulty if they're sharing audio at all. And again, there won't be any feedback because they're not connecting to the meeting technically, right? So they're not connecting with video and audio, they're just sharing their screen. So even though they use the app, the Zoom app, they click on their Zoom app, enter that share key like I showed you, and then it should be seamless at that point. So you shouldn't have any difficulties.
Right, great.
I would like to add something to that. So with the rooms that have the DTEN, on the DTEN itself, there is a way to adjust the camera. So students wouldn't have to come to the front. They could stay in their seat and you could zoom in toward them. So they could just share their screen from where they are, zoom in, presentation time.
Yeah, you can also turn remember you have that webcam on a stand that you can turn around and turn it towards your students as well. So you have the ability, it doesn't matter where the audio is coming from, but the video they'll be able, you can turn that. So right now it's, you know, facing the lectern, but if I wanted to zoom in on me, I could, you know, or zoom in on a particular person, you can turn that and move that. So that's another option. Another thing to think about, and this isn't really DTEN related, but the ability to spotlight is pretty powerful. So if you're having a guest speaker, for example, I would recommend, you know, use that spotlight feature. So then they are the main person that's showing up for your online students. And it will also be the main person that's displayed up on the projector as well for your students to see. Any other questions?
Could you please walk us through that spotlight feature again? I don't know that I caught how to do that.
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to see, but when I see any images as the host, if you move your cursor to the upper right, what will happen is you'll see three little dots, okay? When you see those three little dots, you're going to say spotlight for everyone, and they'll be able, it'll push it because I am the host, it will push the spotlight. It's kind of hard. Yeah, it's hard.
If any of you are attending the Zoom Beyond the Basics session today at 1, that will be gone over in more detail too.
That's good to know. So yeah, but it's the three little dots that pop up when you move your cursor as the host. So you may not see it right now. You just move it across where the images are and just click the three little dots. And then you have the opportunity to put them in spotlight mode for everyone. By the way, your users also can do this. So as the host, I can push that to everyone. But if I am a user and I'm just signed in and my professor doesn't do that, I can go in and spotlight a specific person to be able to see their camera up front. So,
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
So this is Kathy. I'm not seeing that feature right now. So I'm going to my 3 dots on the screen, but I'm not seeing spotlight. So as a Zoomer, how do I get there?
Well, you may not be able to see it because I'm forcing the spotlight.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Do you see the option to pin?
Let me see. Let me scroll up there. 3 dots. I do not.
That's interesting. I think, and it may be how this particular meeting is set up, honestly.
Okay.
It could be.
Okay.
But I would go in and practice, log in as you as the host and go in and try to do it.
As the host, I'm familiar. I just didn't see it here as a Zoomer, so.
Christina, if you're not spotlighted, would we be, maybe then we'd be able to pin?
Yeah, let me
think?
Let me remove the spotlight. Okay, so now I've removed all the spotlights.
And now I have the option to pin a video.
Yes.
Okay,
I see.
so yeah, so just keep in mind, if you are forcing it as a host, they don't have choices.
Got it.
All right. Well, again, we are super excited. I am super excited for this technology. I know, as with all technology, it's tricky and it's hard to get used to. I strongly recommend, if you can get into your classroom ahead of time and practice, I strongly recommend doing that. Just so you're comfortable with the new technology before you have a classroom full of students online and in the classroom. So thank you so much for your time. And unless there's any other questions, I think we're done. And by the way, this meeting, it was recorded and will be available the same place where you signed in.